Welcome to Oakwood Hospital, where pleasure is the best medicine. Oh!
Keep abreast of the medical world with the Candy Stripe nurses. Playing doctor was never so stimulating.
Well, it helps if you know the right people. All I can say is, it's nice to see that young people today still want to do their part for humanity.
Talk to your patients. Try to cheer them up.
In the sheets or on the streets, they're volunteers for action. Candy Stripe nurses.
When we give a physical, we really get physical.
Can you direct me to the Arnholm Research Institute for Reproductive and Non-Procreative Function? Huh? Oh, you mean the sex clinic.
You gotta know how to do it.
Okay, mister. You wanted to do it? Let's do it. Only one thing. This better be good.
Do you sleep with every guy that asks you?
Now, what is the matter with you? Don't you ever get turned on?
Look, this clinic deals specifically in sexual problems.
What's the matter? Having trouble? Is it true that you have a machine that does it?
No, that's another place.
Are you serious? With a duck? 3 ducks?
No way, baby.
Yeah, but how do you...
You just can't say no.
No. What are you doing?
Look, both know why you came here.
Don't be ridiculous.
Let's face it, kiddo. You're all alike.
Fast relief. Take the Candy Stripe nurses and go straight to bed. New World Pictures, rated R.
The following is a paid advertisement. Really? A paid advertisement? Wait, the B-Movie Cast got paid? Yes, the following is a paid advertisement. This episode of the B-Movie Cast is brought to you by the estate planning services of Twyla Minear Brooks, attorney at law. Remember, when the zombie apocalypse comes, things will move pretty fast.
The body should be disposed of at once, preferably by cremation.
Well, how long after death, then, does the body become reactivated?
It's only a matter of minutes.
Minutes? Well, that doesn't give people time to make any arrangements.
Oh, you're right. It doesn't give them time to make funeral arrangements. The bodies must be carried to the street and burned. They must be burned immediately. Soak them with gasoline and burn them. The bereaved will have to forego the dubious comforts that a funeral service will give. They're just dead flesh and dangerous.
So don't leave your estate planning needs until the last minute, because you don't know when that last minute could come. Call Twyla Minear Brooks, attorney at law, at 859-351-2294. That's 859-351-2294. Remember, when you go, you don't want people saying,
"Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up."
Twyla Minear Brooks, attorney at law, is licensed for practice in the state of Kentucky. Consult your local attorney for matters outside of the state of Kentucky.
Command mark. The time will be running at X-20 seconds. Mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fire.
Spawned by the continuing decline and fall of society as we know it, and created on the second-floor spare-bedroom studio in the Piedmont of South Carolina. Podcasting on a shoestring budget and changing the world one freak at a time. It's the B-Movie Cast with your host, Vince Rotolo.
From coast to coast and worldwide via the internet, this is the B-Movie Cast, the podcast of unusual film and television.
Well, hi, guys, and welcome back to the B-Movie Clubhouse for episode 491 of the B-Movie Cast. Before I go any farther, I want to get our contact information out of the way. We love hearing from all of you, so we have a feedback segment devoted to your comments and suggestions, and this is how you can contact us. Option 1, pick up your phone and dial 888-936-0808. This is a toll-free number and a very easy way to leave a voice message. Option 2, you can make your own MP3 file and send it in to bmoviecast@gmail.com. Or use your smartphone voice software and record a call, then just send that in as an attachment instead. Or option 3, if you're not into talking, you can just shoot us an email to bmoviecast@gmail.com. Our website is bmoviecast.com, where you can subscribe to the podcast. It's free, and there you can join us on the Facebook B-Moviecast fan page and letterbox. Also, you can play the contest by sending in your answer by email to bmoviecast@gmail.com with contest in the subject line. And check out the links while you're there, or buy a t-shirt. I currently have smalls to 4Xs. If you want to help us financially, there's a donation box you can click on as a supporter on the Lugosi, Karloff, Agar, and the infamous Xanadu level through PayPal. Also, the easiest way to donate is to click on the Amazon bar on the right side of our homepage. This Amazon link will take you to Amazon.com to make your purchase. It doesn't cost you anything, and you can still log into your personal accounts when you get there. It's completely private, so think about us before you buy online. So now, through the miracle of modern technology and thousands of miles of wires, server farms, PCs, Macs, the Internet, and duct tape, we have our co-host from Lexington, Kentucky, author, editor, screenwriter, film producer, Nick Brown. He has a new website. It is authornickbrown.com. That's AUTHORNICBROWN.com. He is the author of the Werewolf for Hire book series, starting with Blood Curse. He's also selling a book in collaboration with his wife, Fiona, the B-Movie Cookbook. All of these are available on Amazon. He's produced 2 movies, Wretch and Loss Prevention. Both can be ordered on Blu-rays or DVDs through Amazon. He is also the producer of a 3rd film, the soon-to-be-released Fall of Usher. Our special guest host today is the ever-exciting and knowledgeable Beverly Gray. She left a doctoral program in American Lit to take a job with Roger Corman at the legendary New World Pictures. She edited his scripts, wrote publicity material, cast voice actors, and tried her hand at production. One highlight was coming up with a twist ending to the cult classic. Thank you for doing that, by the way. Death Race 2000. And later, as a story editor in Corman's Concord and New Horizon Pictures, she oversaw the development of 170 low-budget features. She's written 6 produced screenplays and played several cameo roles, in all of which she kept her clothes on. Good for you. Beverly's first book, the best-selling Roger Corman, an unauthorized biography of the godfather of indie filmmaking, made its debut in 2000. The softcover edition, tastefully retitled Roger Corman, Blood-Sucking Vampires, Flesh-Eating Cockroaches, and Driller Killers, appeared in 2004, and an updated unexpurgated 3rd edition came out in 2013. You may remember our podcast of number 270, where Beverly talked about this book and her experiences with Roger Corman. So if you want to, go back and listen to number 270. She's also written the biography of a famous Corman alumnus, Ron Howard, From Mayberry to the Moon and Beyond, which was published in 2003, and it's now newly available as an audiobook. Her recent publication is Seduced by Mrs. Robinson, How the Graduate Became the Touchstone of a Generation. Beverly also teaches screenwriting workshops through UCLA Extension. Her popular blog, Beverly in Movie Land, and I'm sure that this will be posted on our website, www.beverlyinmovieland.com. It covers movies, movie making, and growing up Hollywood adjacent. Before we start, I'd like to introduce you to Allan Holzman, our super special guest host. He's an editor and director who got his start with Roger Corman's New World Pictures in the 1970s. He was the editor of such films as Crazy Mama, Candy Striped Nurses, and of course, New World Pictures' biggest production, Battle Beyond the Stars. Allan continues to work in film and has won a Peabody and 2 Emmys for Survivor of the Holocaust for Steven Spielberg. Now he primarily focuses on documentaries. His feature documentaries, Old Man River and Sounds of Memphis, earned a combined 8 Best Documentary Film Awards. Hopefully you've all had a chance to watch his AFI Life Achievement Award, a tribute to James Cagney, that Nick posted on the B-Movie Cast fan site on Facebook. It's a beautiful piece. You got to watch it. And he's also written a book about his experience with Battle Beyond the Stars called Celluloid War, Battle Beyond the Stars.
Hi, great to be here.
I'm really delighted to be here again.
This is the beginning of our countdown to B-Movie Cast episode 500.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Nick and I are trying to pick examples from the wide range and the eras of all the films we've covered over the years. So to kick off this series, we're going to present for your enjoyment tonight the Corman classic Candy Striped Nurses from 1974. It's the story of 3 high school candy stripers with 3 separate storylines and a lot of reasons for the girls to take their tops off. I'm not really sure how to explain the movie. It's been described as sexploitation, it's a sex comedy, it's nurseplotation, which I didn't even know was a thing. So it's called softcore porn sometimes. Somebody wrote that it was one of the most politically incorrect films ever made. But you choose. You choose how you feel. You have to watch the movie first, of course. But fair warning, you probably don't want your children in the room when you watch it. Just I guess it depends on how you raise your children, but I don't think you really want them in the room.
Well, and Mary, honestly, you don't want your parents in the room if you're watching it either.
Well, this is true, too. Good point. Good point.
Okay, to put it mildly, let's just say I've seen this movie, but it was back before I discovered the internet. Mm-hmm. So there you go.
Oh, and if you're going to look it up online, be careful what you Google. I Googled Candy Striped Nurses, and I got a lot of Ron Jeremy movies. If you know who I'm talking about and get the drift of what I'm talking about, there were a lot of graphic photos that came up so just be careful. Do Candy Striped Nurses 1974. Just to be careful.
Yeah, Candy Striped Nurses movie 1974.
Maybe even Corman.
Maybe throw in Roger Corman.
Yeah. Just don't do like Ron Jeremy or anything.
Nobody does Ron Jeremy anymore, Mary, but that's beside the point.
Okay, and by the way, I'm recovering from some surgery, so I'm going to let everybody else do most of the talking because I don't do well after anesthetics, and I get incredibly stupid, so I'm just going to let everybody else talk instead of me.
I think that's a perfect state in which to talk about this movie, actually.
Good one, Beverly. So, guys,
well, hey, Mary,
take it away. What?
I was going to say, I got a quick question.
What?
Actually, it's not so much for you; it's for Allan.
Yes.
I think Allan, your book, Celluloid Wars, about Battle Beyond the Stars, has come out since the last time we did the podcast.
Woohoo!
Yeah, yes, it's on Amazon and it's getting great responses. So please go there. It's based on a journal that I kept while editing, and it's a daily journal, and I didn't miss anything, and it's hysterical.
It is.
Hope you did.
It's fascinating.
Well, I'm laughing now.
Hey, it's a fun book, and I tell you what amazed me about it, because you did let me read it in advance on PDF. And I was reading it, and I really didn't appreciate how good it looks until I got a copy of the book.
Yeah.
And the way they put this book together is just, it's really a treat, is all I got to say. It somehow or other, the book, you open it up and it feels like you're reading something from Starlog magazine back in 79 or 80.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Bill Cunningham, the producer, set out to do that. And he spent 3 years working on the graphics.
Wow!
To make it read like a graphic novel, and then I also added interviews with the Skotek brothers, who were still working for Cameron, and Dorinda Wood, and she had all of her costume designs, and Roger actually had her. She auditioned for the job on a Friday. She interviewed on Friday. And he said, if you can design all the costumes by Monday, if I like them, I'll give you the job. And she did, and he did.
Wow.
So their interviews are in it too.
Well, that's awesome. And by the way, when we get to the contest in a little while, I have one more free copy of Celluloid Wars that I'm going to give away to a lucky listener who does not live in Canada. And I say that because after the last episode, I gave away a prize, and of course the winner was in Canada, and it would be cheaper for me to get on an airplane and fly it up to him than what it costs to mail that DVD.
Yeah.
But that's beside the point. So if the winner is Canadian, or God help me, if they're in the UK, you'll get the prize next time I'm in Canada or the UK. So, I'm just saying, I don't mean to be cheap, but oh my God. Anyway, also Beverly. Now,
yes,
I believe what is your latest book? That's the one about Mrs. Robinson, isn't it?
Yes, it's called Seduced by Mrs. Robinson, How the Graduate Became the Touchstone of a Generation. And it came out in time for the 50th anniversary, and doesn't that make you feel old? The 50th anniversary of that landmark film, The Graduate. And it was an awful lot of fun to research and to write and to talk about. So that's one of the things I can brag on just a bit. And I would also like to encourage anyone who's listening to check out my blog, which I've been doing since 2011. So it's been quite a long time. It's called Beverly and Movie Land. I write twice a week about movies, movie making, and growing up Hollywood adjacent. So it's been a lot of fun, and I urge you to tune in. And I guess you can't tune into a blog, but to click on it and enjoy.
I was going to say, I managed to tune into things that are untune-inable, so I'll tune into it myself. But I will say I've read a lot of articles you've written for it, and it is a lot of fun. And thank you, by the way, both of you, for being on the show again. You guys are. It's super fun to have each of you on, and now to have you together.
Yeah.
This is
together again for the first time, I think, is accurate.
Yeah, there you go.
And I should mention that my blog has been the home for a review of the B-Movie Cookbook, and which was a great deal of fun to write about. And Allan as well was the star of my blog one week, writing about the book you're talking about, Celluloid Wars. So a lot of stuff there for B-movie types.
Wow.
And for those listening, I will be putting links to both Allan's book and Beverly's blog on the show notes for the podcast on bmoviecast.com. So check those out, please, because I tell you what, both Beverly's blog and Allan's book are both a lot of fun, and it's great to have you both on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
And speaking of giving stuff away, Mary, let's go ahead and do the contest. You want to?
Sounds good to me. Okay, it's time for the contest segment of our podcast. And let's see, today's answer was Dolomite from 1975.
What? Put your weight on it, woman.
Oh.
Sorry. Okay, I had to do Dolomite.
Okay.
Because I am reading the most interesting book I have read this year so far, although the year's young. So let me take that back. I'm reading the most interesting nonfiction book I've read in the past year, other than Allan Holzman's Celluloid Wars. Let me quickly make that comment. But no, I'm reading a really interesting book, and it's called "Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself," which is the authorized biography of Rudy Ray Moore.
Oh.
And it is absolutely fascinating to delve into the origins of Rudy Ray Moore's comedy, his music. I'm still the book right now, I'm in the 1960s. So we haven't even gotten to when he started making movies in the 70s.
Wow.
So, but it is absolutely fascinating. And, I just can't praise this book highly enough. It is super interesting. And it has convinced me that we must do at least one Rudy Ray Moore movie on the podcast in the near future.
Okay.
I know you're excited.
No, for some reason, it's part of the feedback later on, but somebody mentioned the Dolomite, a movie. But
yeah.
Did we give it away?
Did we give it away?
Yeah, I think I had a copy of it that we gave away like in the last year.
Well, I don't know. Did you?
I don't know.
I don't know what you've got.
I was kind of hoping you'd remember, but...
Mary, I don't remember what I had for dinner. Good Lord. All right. Well, anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why Dolomite was our contest movie this week, though.
Okay.
And the new contest photo will be up shortly, so
yes.
Go ahead and get your entries in.
Okay, one other question. Did they just do a new Dolomite movie?
Okay. They did a movie
Murphy
called My Name is Dolomite.
Okay.
And Eddie Murphy plays Rudy Ray Moore in that film.
That's what I thought.
And that is actually a wonderful film.
Oh.
I really enjoyed it, and I know I can't remember if it was nominated for an Academy Award or not, but it should have been. It was fantastic.
Was it last year?
It was 2019, I think.
Oh.
Is when it came out, and it is extremely good.
Oh.
And it's extremely interesting, and it is a snippet of Rudy Ray Moore's life. And this movie is about how he managed to get Dolomite made.
Oh.
And I'm not going to spoil anything, but that was the start of, I believe, a 7-film series that he made. Not all Dolomite, obviously, but 7 films that he shot because Dolomite was so successful.
Oh.
And if you watch Dolomite, it is ridiculously bad at times, but it is fun bad.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you watch this middle-aged fat guy basically doing kung fu and being the sexiest man around, and he's got his harem of kung fu women who are helping him to clean up the crime in the city, essentially.
Oh.
And it is just ridiculously fun to watch.
Wow.
So yes, I think you would actually enjoy the movie, Mary.
Yeah, cool. Well, we should do that one.
Well, we should.
Like
we will.
We will. Okay.
But you know what I really want to do now, though?
Get on with the contest.
Give away some prizes.
Sounds good. Okay. Our first movie today was donated by Patrick Kelly. It's a Blu-ray.
All right, Patrick Kelly.
I know. Blu-ray called Day of the Triffids. And
which one?
It's the 2009 BBC TV miniseries that we did.
Oh, that one's really good.
B-Movie Cast number 124.
Izzard in it.
He even looked up the date. He said we did it on October 10th of 2010. He goes on to say, this is yet another retelling of the tale of carnivorous plants bent on destroying mankind. Eddie Izzard plays a shrewd maniac who sees this botanical apocalypse as an opportunity to catapult himself into being the ruler of this new world. This series also stars Dougray Scott, Brian Cox, Vanessa Redgrave, and Jason Priestley. Jason Priestley was in it? Wow.
Yes.
Okay. And the winner
See, now
is...
you're going to watch it before you send it out, aren't you?
I don't have it. Patrick sends these out himself.
Oh, yeah. Well, have him send it to you, and then you can send it out.
And I'll send it on. Okay, and the winner is... wait a minute. Number 9, Brenda. Wow, she keeps
Brenda! All right.
Lot. She must have put some kind of voodoo hoax on her curse on the... never mind. I dropped the ball and it went across the table and it fell on the floor and then Kitty's looking at it now, so...
Well, this is a lot of story that we don't need, Mary, but carry on. Do we have any other prizes?
Our second prize is a mystery gift from Kenny B. Santito, guaranteed to be worth more than the 2 minutes it took you to enter the contest. Guaranteed to be a DVD or Blu-ray, book or magazine, and some knick-knack, and something from south of the border, preferably legal something. And again, tell us what it is, because I love those prize packages. They're great. Okay. And the winner is, oops. Oh, I'm sorry, Santito. It's Paul White from Canada.
Oh, Paul, you lucky dog.
Oh, man. Wait, you just sent something to him.
Yes, I did.
Wow.
So.
Okay, our third prize is a mystery gift from Nick. So what is
It's not a mystery gift.
Yes. What is the mystery gift? Oh.
Well, it's not a mystery anymore. In honor of having Allan and Beverly on the show, well, actually, mostly in honor of Allan, because it's Allan's book. It's Celluloid Wars, the story of the making of Battle Beyond the Stars.
Wow. Cool. That is a good book.
It is an extremely good book.
Yeah. Okay, and the winner is Scott Wirtz.
All right, Scott.
Okay, and our fourth prize is from Daryl Majewski from Scream Magazine. I'm sorry. And it's a copy of a movie called Hardware with Dylan McDermott and Stacey Travis.
Oh, wow, Hardware. That's okay, I can't remember the dude's name, but it's the guy who started to direct the remake of The Island of Dr. Moreau in 1997, and things fell apart on the set because Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer were both insane. Wow. And so this guy ended up getting fired, and he ran off into the woods and basically hid in the woods for like 3 or 4 weeks while they were trying to make the movie, came back and snuck into the crowd scene at the end of the film where they put him in makeup because he knew the makeup people. And so they made him up as one of the monsters, and he was there as a monster in the movie that he got fired from directing.
Oh, okay. So Richard Stanley.
Thank you, Richard Stanley. Yeah. I love that guy. He is so crazy.
Ooh, okay.
Yes.
The box says the best nuclear radiation twisted metal jubilee since the original Mad Max. Boy, this looks interesting. I might have to watch this.
It's an interesting movie. I don't know if I'd compare it to Mad Max. It's much more like if Mad Max was on acid. Okay, but it's a really interesting flick, and I enjoy it. And, it's Richard Stanley, so I can sit there and go, Richard Stanley!
Oh, so. Okay, cool. Okay, the winner is... let's see, Dan Sample. Congratulations, Dan Sample. And I will send this out whenever I get back out of the house again.
Yeah. None of that going outside for you, lady.
Yeah, well, as long as it doesn't weigh over 10 pounds, I guess I can still carry it to the car in the post office.
Exactly. All right. Well, does that wrap up our contest giveaways?
Yes, that did.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Mary, for those cool prizes. And I'll tell you what, why don't we move on to our movie? What film did we do, Mary? I forgot.
I know you didn't forget. Candy Striped Nurses from 1974.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know that you had anything to... Beverly, I didn't realize you did anything with the script. That's cool.
Oh, I did, and I'm in it.
I'm going to have to watch it again. Which scene is it that you're in?
It's right near the end, and I just watched it again recently. I'm kind of hard to spot, but there's an additional nurse who... it's at the point where the basketball player needs surgery, and the nurse, the short-haired nurse, has her hand bleeding, and somebody's got to drag her out of the operating room, and that's me.
Oh,
and they had me a nurse outfit to put on, and it was very tight. And somebody from the editing room, and Allan may know about this, said, "Were you wearing a green bra?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I was wearing a green bra." And then I started to think, oh my God, what kind of costumes they give me there? So,
so did you just happen to walk in and they decided they needed a person?
Well, I had been working on it, and Julie Corman agreed. I don't know if she asked me or if I asked her, but, I was darned if I was going to go through life without playing a cameo in something. So she gave me this teeny little part. No, wait a minute. She didn't, because when she saw me there, she said, "How can you be here? You should be at the office. Roger needs you so much." Well, that was good to know that he needed me so much, but I don't think he really missed me that afternoon.
So she was on the set every day.
I'm sure she was, but she was still pretty early in her producing career, and she was very nervous. She was fairly newly married, as was I, as a matter of fact. Roger Corman married somewhat late in life. He was in his early 40s, as I recall, and she was in her late 20s. And she was very, very eager to please. She really wanted to make it as a filmmaker, and she was very nervous. So you tiptoed carefully around Julie when you saw her.
Okay.
Well, she was really open about it with me. She said, "I really depend on you to tell me what film is and all that and all the things." So we were, and she said that her absolute goal was to produce something cheaper than Roger, so she would be able to be a producer.
Wow.
There are some stories about that.
So it was really important to keep right on schedule and really please Roger with the speed of the editing.
Oh my!
Yeah, somebody told me that she was doing a film with a big battle scene, and of course she was trying, as Allan said, to be cheaper than Roger. So she handed them like one box of explosives and said, "This is your battle. That's it." She's determined. She has since learned. She learned a great deal over the years, but in those early days, she was very tense.
Wow. That would be
hard. So much fun. She was really, I really enjoyed her a great deal. But I didn't have to deal with being on the crew and the shooting and the hardship of that, I was apart in the editing room, so. But
I don't know if Allan.
I really liked it, working for her.
I don't know if Allan experienced this, but in my experience, Julie, depending on what day you talk to her, she could be the nicest, friendliest, most helpful person in the world, or she could barely deign to know your name. You never knew quite which Julie would come into the office. But the hardest job in the entire office was being Julie's assistant. That was rough.
I can imagine. Wow.
Why?
Well, the pressure. There's so much, always pressures going on forever in the world.
Plus little kids as well. Not at the time of Candy Striped Nurses, but soon thereafter. There were a lot of pressures.
I remember. That was a bit after. It was the next year that she got pregnant. When I was cutting Crazy Mama, she actually produced from the hospital bed.
Wow.
She was going over bills.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because when we first started talking about this, Mary's like, and I didn't even know there was genre of nurseploitation. And if you just look at her filmography, now I think she did Night Call Nurses, The Young Nurses, Candy Stripe Nurses. She nursed the hell out of the early 70s.
Yeah. I actually made a list. See, I did research for this. She was involved with all of the nurse films that were made. This is when Roger's company, New World Pictures, was quite new, and this was one of the things that put him on the map. The first one was the student nurses, then there was private duty nurses, then there were night call nurses. It's always harder at night for the night call nurses. The young nurses, and then finally... the demise of the series with Candy Striped Nurses. Then they went on to Teachers, but it wasn't as lengthy a series.
The ad for Candy Striped Nurses, was that the one that had keep abreast of the news or what's going on? Keep abreast.
I'm not sure if they all had bad puns, but that one had a really good poster.
Yeah, it did. They seem to copy that style for other ones too. It's an interesting style.
Well, what was it? Okay, I've actually just brought up the poster, and it says they'll give you fast relief. The Candy Striped Nurses.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, keep abreast of the medical world with the Candy Striped Nurses. And this is a great poster, and I do want to
John Davidson was in charge of the advertising, and he went on to do RoboCop, and he was really brilliant.
Oh.
He was really funny. You never saw him without his laughing at stuff. He was just really, sarcastic and witty and, hard-edged. It was great.
So I do have a question, though, about his advertising. So in the poster, there's an explosion going on. What blew up? Did anything blow up?
Well, there was a car. The car goes wild.
That's right. Yeah. I would say
it
blew up.
Car chasing. That's like a one-car chase scene. It just goes through stop signs and benches.
Yeah.
It's lots of cuts, lots of different stunts, but it's all the cheapest stunts you could ever imagine.
Okay, I do have to say one thing. You said it's got a lot of cheap stunts. There was a brave person sitting on that bench.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was watching that and I was like, oh my God, that car hit the bench about 2 seconds after they got off of it.
Yeah.
Well, Barbara Peters was the second unit director, and I think she did a lot of stuff that's in the movie. And I actually think that she did the scene with Robin Mattson in the parallel bars, that sex scene.
Oh, okay.
It's extremely sensual.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that
was that shot.
Yeah.
Well, that was probably the best scene of that type in the movie.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
right.
And then afterwards they're lying naked and you see male nudity. So I suspect that Barbara did that.
Oh.
Well,
but
and
you see the male butt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was unusual for that time.
Well, and I do have to say kudos to her for that, because you know what? I'm all about equality. So if we're gonna, doesn't bother me a bit. So
Roger is too, and this is the funniest thing. At the end of the movie, Candace's role is to help the rock star Owen Bowles get it up. And there's a scene where he's making love to her, and then to the two go-go dancers, but it's only covered in one fairly wide-angle master or full master, no coverage whatsoever. And the guy's got his pants on the whole time, and he's just dry humping the girls.
Yeah.
And at the last meeting for notes in Roger's office, he called the director, Allan Hollett, back in and said, Allan, and this to him, I don't know what you plan to do in life or where you plan to go from here, but I want you to remember one thing. When a man fucks, he takes his pants off. And if you study the film, a scene earlier when the athlete is making love, he keeps his pants on. She's naked, but his pants are on. So I think Allan shot that scene, but not the other love scene. They have two love scenes. Anyway, so when I got my break for Roger with the Kung Fu movie to do additional scenes, I wrote the scene where this is a film from the Philippines, and I had to do two scenes. And one scene was a love scene, and I had the woman take off the guy's pants with Kung Fu knives. And I read Roger the scene over the phone, and he said, Allan, that's brilliant, just brilliant. Anyway.
I want to say something about female directors, though, since we brought up Barbara Peters. Roger liked giving opportunities to female directors, partly because I think he liked feeling liberal-minded, and also because, as he always said about women in general, that they were smarter, worked cheaper, and were more loyal than men.
Wow.
And that was a quote that I've heard from 2 or 3 different people, including Gail Ann Hurd, who were part of the Roger Corman stable at various times. But the other thing about women...
He also hired assistants who started off as assistants for women who graduated from Stanford.
Yes. That was a little bit later than my time. I was lucky because I was at UCLA. But but the other thing is, in some of the movies that had a strong female presence behind the camera, and I'm talking about like the Slumber Party Massacre movies, I think he felt it took the heat off of him in a way. These were blatant female exploitation movies, but if you have a woman directing it, you can say, well, gee, this is a female perspective.
Okay.
So all of the Slumber Party Massacre movies were directed by women.
Okay.
That was Amy Jones, and didn't Christine Peterson do one? Oh, she was body chemistry.
Yeah, Christine was body chemistry. Amy Holden Jones, and then several other women. Deborah Brock did one of them. Even one of the Office people, Sally Madison, did the last one. And there is a new Slumber Party, or a reworked Slumber Party Massacre, and I noticed that was also a female director.
Wow.
You know, what I'm learning, by the way, is that don't go to slumber parties. Because odds are there'll be a massacre and it'll be directed by a woman. But that's beside the point. No, I think that's interesting. And, you know, you brought up Barbara Peters, and I always think of her, I think of Humanoids from the Deep.
Yes.
Because, you know, that was one of her movies for Roger, and there was a bit of controversy about that, too. I think. That
was her last involvement with Roger, because she really let it be known that they had tampered with her movie. And I think that was the last time she worked for him. And she was a talented lady.
Now,
Roger first declared it the worst movie he's ever done, and then it became the most successful movie he ever did. Give me the budget.
Well, I just got to say that.
Because he thought there wasn't enough nudity, so it was like, I may have this a little wrong, but the dark-haired woman runs into the tent, and then a blonde woman with much bigger breasts runs out of the tent. You could tell there had been
I know, that was my favorite tent.
Well, here's the thing. The guy who had to go into the humanoid suit, he had to do 2 weeks of night shooting in the humanoid suit in the water, coming out of the water. And to get him to do it, Roger promised him any job he wanted on his next movie. And his next movie was Battle Beyond the Stars, and he said, what job do you want? he said assistant editor, and he had never assisted before, and that's who he stuck me with at the beginning of a special effects movie. It was incredible. It was crazy.
Wow.
But it's impressive that Roger kept his promise.
I know, and so I was going to say that he's a man of his word.
Wow.
Well, and you gotta appreciate that, And I mean,
well, have you ever been in a humanoid suit in the water for 2 nights of 2 weeks of night shooting? That's really cold.
I can honestly say I've never been in a humanoid suit, but, regardless of the circumstance. But I would.
Isn't that what you were giving away in the contest?
Yeah. There you go. Oh, but now I got a question, Allan. So, you were talking about the fact that Julie was really working hard to keep the film on schedule and in budget, or let me rephrase that, under budget compared to any film that Roger did, because she wanted to come in.
We're just talking $10 under budget. We're not saying there's no leeway here.
Yeah.
As long as it's less.
Well, that's it. So, as an editor, you want to pick the best shots from the coverage and this, that, and the other. Was there a lot of coverage to choose from? I mean, you were talking about just having a master for the sex scene with Bowles, the rock star, and did you have a lot of coverage for other scenes, or was it a lot of it was just, here's what we shot from this camera, go?
Well, no, there was coverage. I think that was, I don't know why there wasn't coverage of that particular thing. I think the director probably fell in love with the shot because it did, it was an interest. I really can't. I couldn't be in his mind, but I can tell you that it's never a case of like, gee, which of these is the best take? You try to find what works and try to make anything out of it that's decent and good. So I think that everything was rushed, and you can't really say that you're into lots of cinematic treats. But there was an attempt to have some style to it, and so that was the goal, to try to find the humor in it, and to like Michael Kahn talked about this later. He's Spielberg's editor, and I was doing the same thing then, which is you don't open with a master shot. You open close and you discover. So you use the master shot as a reveal. So that became a dramatic thing, like what could be the reveal shot in the scene? How long could you make it interesting, before you saw everything? But a lot was trying to, hide some action or bad acting, and you try to find the good acting and isolate that and try to feature that. And so it's a lot of work with the track and making the pace sound right. But it was amazing with this movie that, when Candace, I can't believe I did this, but for Candace's first scene, it's like open up with her, bare-breasted right there. There's no reveal at all. It's like, boom, shot cut. And I love that cut now. It's like contrast galore, it's great. And a lot of the shots we just held on the breasts of of two women, and they showed it so nonchalantly and so relaxed. It was just very, it was so surprising. It was, they could just talk these lines that would otherwise not be interesting, but suddenly they're interesting because she's just bare-breasted and saying about she's late, has to call her mom or this kind of thing or other. It's just, it's fun. But they are perfect breasts, all of them. Both of them. The three.
Let me add.
And like when the guy takes off the woman's clothes, Robin's clothes, she's not wearing any underwear. I was shocked by that. So those things were interesting in the editing room.
Let me add something. If you look back at the other nurse movies, they usually were 4 women rather than 3, and with that same kind of balance of a comic story and a sort of the social issue story and the action story. And in each of these films, after the very first one, there was always 3 attractive white women and then a black woman, because, you know, this was the 70s and we wanted to acknowledge that there were other types of people out there. So by the time we got to Candy Striped Nurses, someone had the bright idea of saying, well, we've done a lot of black women, let's have a Latina instead, and that will give us a whole new minority to work with.
Uh-huh.
So they did. And she got the action story and the near rape and all that stuff. When it
There was
came
one
time
great
to
shot in
cast
the
that,
near rape that I loved, which was kind of like a tribute to Orson Welles. It was really low angle. It's where he puts down the gun to rape her, and she grabs the gun and, you know, holds it to his head.
Mm-hmm.
And it was done with that severe low angle. You know,
yeah,
and a lot of stuff.
and says, this better be good. Yeah, when they went to cast this, they found they had a very big problem. They got all these attractive and talented Latinas in, and when they said, you know, this role is going to require breast nudity, everyone said sorry.
Wow.
And finally, they found somebody whose name is not Maria Rojo, and she agreed to do it. And they thought, okay, she's not the best looking, she's not the most talented, but she agreed to do the nudity. So when they came to the rape scene, where he, of course, reveals her breasts, she went hysterical. And she said, please, no, I beg you, I can't. And this went on and on. It, of course, held up shooting. And I think they finally got her to do it. She was in total hysterics, but that's why the name you see on the screen is not the name of the actual actress. Well, it's the name of a very famous Mexican actress that they just sort of borrowed her name, put it in the credits.
So that isn't Maria Rojo.
It is not Maria Rojo. And if you look at Maria Rojo on IMDb, she's got a long string of credits.
Yeah.
Some of them are significant in Mexican movies. That is not her.
Wow.
Well, you know, Roger, what his advice to the director is when the actress refuses nudity, at least this was his advice to me, is that if she refuses, go downtown and find the scaggiest prostitute you can and hire her and say that she's going to be the body double. And then they'll do it.
Oh.
I don't think that would have helped in this
he was
case.
Serious.
These women were really, I think, culturally very, very upset.
Yeah. Well, and you know, it's funny because you said that, Allan, and the bit of advice that I'd heard Roger had told people was, and you know what? It wasn't Roger Corman. I'm sorry. It was Lloyd Kaufman. And Lloyd's advice when making a film that requires nudity is shoot all the nude scenes first.
Yes.
Because then if the actor quits or won't do them, you can recast easier.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
So,
but then, you know, what you come across as a director is that the actress isn't relaxed into the role enough. So it ultimately does come down to, you know, forcing them to agree with what they agreed to do in the beginning, and that has to be straight up front. And you know, the actress I had for Forbidden World first dropped out because she got a McDonald's commercial before the film started, and suddenly she didn't want to do nudity anymore. So she couldn't have the role.
Well, you know, they might have taken away her French fries. So.
So we got Dunlop instead. So.
Well, you never know if it's going to show up without clothes in a Corman movie, because long ago when I was at Concord, we made a movie, something about the Amazon. I can't remember the title, but took place. It was filmed in Peru, in the jungle, And there was a very hot sex scene with Sandra Bullock, who wasn't Sandra Bullock then. Well, she was Sandra Bullock, but nobody had heard of her. And then, of course, once she became famous, they re-released it and said, we've put previously unseen footage.
Wow.
Wow. What's the name of the movie?
Well, and it's funny
Fire on the Amazon, if you must know. Fire on the Amazon.
Fire on the Amazon. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, that sounded like, okay, I'll be looking that up.
I was going to say, people are Googling that right now.
I watch Candy Stripe Nurses. I'm tired. So, we'll save that one for another day. But, it is funny because, and I don't mean to make this the nudity in film podcast, but I go ahead and tell this story too. I've produced a couple of independent films, and the second film that I produced, Wretch, has nudity in it. And to be fair, we have male and female nudity, so we're above board on it.
No one cares about male nudity, but go on.
Some of us do.
The guy in our movie, yeah, people cared actually. They were like, oh, okay. But I digress. The two things that were funny. One, not funny actually, is I had to sit down and have a talk with the actors because we were very straight up front. The story calls for it. This isn't gratuitous. This is part of the story. And so you're gonna, do this if you're gonna be cast, And we had a long talk, and one of the things that I had to bring up was the fact that the internet exists now. And I said, just be aware, your story about Sandra Bullock is what made me think of this, because both of the actors involved in this have gone on to do other things. And I was very upfront. I said, if you're willing to do this, that's fine, but I want you going with your eyes open, because this will be there forever once it's out there. The internet is a thing, and it will immediately find nudity. So sure enough. The other funny one was when we did a couple of there were two scenes that involved nudity, and one was indoors, the other was outdoors, but for both of them we were trying to do the closed set thing, and it was a very closed set indoors, and it was just me, the other producer, and then we had one grip, and the director and cinematographer were in there, and they were shooting in this room, and me and the other producer, a woman named Janelle, were sitting outside at a table, and the kitchen table, while they were filming in this other room. And they came out, and everybody who was naked just came out naked and stood around the table talking to us. And I looked over at them, and I was like, you realize that this sort of negates the whole idea of a closed set, right? They thought it was funny. I was like, okay, whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
So on Forbidden World, when we were doing the laser shower scene with the two women, I promised them a closed set, and the only people allowed on the set were the DP, the assistant, me, and that was it. The sound recorder was outside, but the mic was in. And I stepped out to talk to the sound recorder to make sure the sound was okay before I wrapped the shot. And we had put up flats around, to create the four walls. And the entire male population of the crew was stacked on top of each other, looking through the cracks in the walls.
Oh, no. Oh.
It's like, come on.
But I mentioned this when we talked about Big Bad Mama. This was shared with me, because I certainly wasn't there, by Steve Carver, who directed Big Bad Mama, was that Angie Dickinson, who had a fantastic figure, was very comfortable with sex and with nudity. But one of the guys she's involved with in the movie was William Shatner, who was not comfortable at all. Wow. And he apparently just sort of wrapped himself in duct tape for some reason.
I love William Shatner, but from what I hear, well, it's hard to hide a girdle when you're naked. So.
Well, he was younger back then.
Yeah, well, he did have
apparently was girdling up a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the director of the film, Allan. I think we should.
No, please. Let's get off of nudity for a minute, because I'm already going to get enough comments thanks to Mary. Mary's built my reputation up as some sort of connoisseur. Thank you. I was going to say something nicer about myself, but we'll just say you've made me out to be a lech.
Yes.
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome, Nick.
So let's change the subject to the director. Who was the director again, Mary?
Allan, I don't know how to say his last name. Holub?
Holub.
Okay.
Yeah.
Holub.
Was an interesting choice. Some of the previous directors had done well by Roger and done well for themselves. Stephanie Rothman was an early female director. Jonathan Kaplan always did good work. But Julie was determined to find someone brand new, and she went to UCLA, a screening of student films, and came away with Allan, who had directed I forget what it was called, but I'd seen it too as a UCLA student. It was a dance video. It was a very charming little story. There was a lot of cute stuff in it. And this was his first professional movie. And he was, of course, plenty nervous. He was supposed to write and direct. And one of my favorite stories about Allan was that when we were in the writing phase, he seemed to think that every line he put on the page was golden, and that any variation or any cutting, God forbid, just couldn't be tolerated, including, and I remember this so well, there was a line where one of the characters, the one who's supposed to be the kind of academic and literary one, she says, no, 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 no. And we said, can she just say no, no, no? Oh, no, she has to say no, 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 because that helps to create her character. So he would fight for every single line in that fashion. And then we were having a lot of trouble with the story, and I'm afraid I think there's still trouble with the story in terms of explaining the clues that led people to realize certain things. And one of the things, there was an important clue about the basketball player who was secretly being given drugs. Mm-hmm. There was some important clue, and I remember one day that scene was supposed to be shot, and I said, how did it go? And Allan said, or someone told me that there just wasn't time on the set. Allan just cut the whole thing. So that's the difference between a writer, I think, and a director. For a writer, you hang on to every word.
Yeah, because that story never really
made sense. For a director, if you're running late,
he
forget
was doing drugs by himself,
Yeah.
You never really saw the pressure from above. That's a really important point.
Yeah.
You guys have just cleared up the only plot hole that existed in Candy Stripe Nurses. So
the only one.
With Mary Rojo or Maria Rojo, whatever her name is, because she suddenly is risking her life for this guy that she hardly even knows and didn't even kiss.
Mm-hmm. I know.
There's no romance there at all, and suddenly she's risking everything. That seemed kind of...
I think there's less romance than there might have been, partly because they ran out of time, and partly because of the nudity issues, is my guess.
Yeah.
But there is this point where she sees a book of matches and says, and goes running back to, and I'm still scratching my head as to how that told her everything she needed to know to go back to East LA and risk her life again.
Yeah, that was an interesting little side story, and it's funny because that one was kind of the dramatic story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
that was a creepy one.
Really.
Yeah, and I do have to say, okay, and we'll talk about this in the plot a little bit, but essentially she's going after two stick-up men who had robbed a gas station, and during the robbery, there was a bystander who was just wanting to use the bathroom, and he ends up getting blamed as being part of this gang and is actually shot by the gas station owner, and he ends up in the hospital. And so that's what not Maria Rojas is trying to. She's trying to get him off the hook. Right. And I got to say, those two stick-up men, I am baffled by how much like real organized crime those two were. It's like, yeah, we're just stick-up men, but man, we're ready. We're on the ball. We're gonna, we're laying traps for people who are looking for us.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
There's one bit of staging that's just too funny. When the guy is holding the gun to the guy who could be a friendly, but he's putting the nozzle of the gun on the guy's butt.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Oh yeah.
He's down below the counter. So
Yeah.
It makes some sense. It's just funny staging.
Yeah.
Well, but I did one thing for the script because Julie found me at AFI. She actually asked another a student, a woman who I was a classmate of mine, Barbara Noble, who had edited a film, who was working on a Jack Lemmon starring movie there that a student did. And she didn't want to do it, but she recommended me. And there was a huge snobbery from film school to Corman. I mean, I was actually still at school editing my movie at the same time. And, people at AFI put down Corman, people at Corman put down AFI. And I just, didn't mention either one in either place. But, so Julie was going the film school route, finding people.
Yeah. And there were a number of AFI people who ended. Steve Carver was from the early days of AFI, and I'm kicking my... Carl Franklin was from AFI.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and about... So, AFI were starting all these great, cinema masters. And here I'm going to Candy Striped Nurses and seeing what Beverly described about Allan. I was seeing in the office the day before shooting started, and Allan was squatted on the floor with the script supervisor and Julie, and they were arguing over these little words in the script. And so then I just told myself, I'm not going to read the script. I'm just going to let the film speak to me. What I did was just I really wanted to have a positive attitude towards the movie, and so I saw dailies as a surprise every day. I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
And so I had enthusiasm, and I tried to figure out the movie as it went. It was an interesting approach, and it was more fun. And I found something that would keep me awake at night.
You edited the movie and didn't know the script at all?
That's correct.
Wow.
That's correct. I kept that habit up through most of my career because I really liked that idea of let the film speak to you. Like you're not trying to impose something that's not shot. So many people see the script and it's supposed to be this, and they try to turn the film into that and find it. I really want to see what the movie is saying.
Oh.
And get the best out of that.
Wow. You'd have to be really good at picking out the small
And it's easy to
details.
make a director think you love everything, so you just say, I like the script. Because it doesn't matter if you criticize, they never listen, so... really.
That's,
no, I believe you on that. Trust me.
It's a very practical choice.
Wow. I forgot what we were talking about before that.
Well, no, we were talking about the fact that, before that we'd been talking about the script and the fact that the director, Allan Holub, was... Holub. Yeah, excuse me.
Was from film school, UCLA.
Yeah, he just got out of film school. And that he was very much attached to every line that he had written.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay.
So did every line that he wrote, and I know you didn't read the script before you were editing it, but did every line that he wrote get in there other than the few that got argued about?
No, there was, as I said, for me, from my point of view, the editing was to get the best performances.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you didn't really have that much of a choice. You had to get through everything, but whatever made for the best was best for the scene. Was cut, was edited. I didn't have any loyalty to the scripts. I didn't read it, but anyway. So I don't know. You had to make what there was work. So it wasn't really. You didn't have that much of a choice to. So you could make things shorter, certainly.
Right.
So could you?
I should talk about how Roger would see everything. He would see the movie, 4 or 5 times, and he would take notes on a yellow pad, and he'd be looking down to make sure he could read his writing, and he would miss some of the movie, but if he saw it 4 times, he would eventually see everything. So, and a lot of his notes would take 4 frames off the beginning of the shot, take 4 frames off the end, and you didn't think that would matter at first, but it really does, and I really learned a lot about pace from him.
Yeah, he. When I wrote my book on Ron Howard, and I actually talked to Ron Howard about that his first movie ever as a director, Grand Theft Auto, at that time, Roger would send his films to something called Preview House that's on the Sunset Strip, or was, and members of the public would come in for free, see the movie, and they'd have little dials they could turn when they were interested or when they were not interested. And he'd come out of that with a graph, and Ron remembered himself and Roger being down on the floor looking at these graphs, and Roger was saying, this is where they're interested, this is where they're not. And the process was a little strange, but Ron said that in the long run, he realized through that you can make movies better and better as you cut them tighter and tighter. That those peaks and valleys are important to note in one way or another, but it's better not to go to Preview House. Roger, by the way, didn't exactly screen the audiences that came to see his movies, so there would be, as Ron said, blue-haired ladies watching Roger's teen car crash movies, so they perhaps were not quite as interested as they might have been.
No, that's funny. Now, I do have a question about the actual filming. So it was shot at a hospital, I think, in Burbank, and from what I've heard from Holub is, and I don't know if this is true or not, I don't know if either you can answer, but he said that Julie Corman gave the board of directors a copy of a script called Angels of Mercy, which was a slightly different script than what was actually being shot with Candy Stripe nurses to get permission to film there. Do y'all have any info if that was actually true or not?
I don't know about that particular script, but that was a Corman tactic. I never could imagine how it could possibly work, but they actually once did it. Roger decided for some project, I think might have been when he was still directing, that he wanted to shoot in the Vatican. And he said he was a registered Catholic, whatever that means. And and someone said, I don't think that they're going to like this particular story, Roger. And he said, well, in that case, we will make up another script to send them. And so that was done a number of times. There was in the era of Fatal Attraction, I guess this is around the time of Body Chemistry, an erotic thriller, they wanted to use a campus and they wanted to use UCLA. And somehow the script that was sent to UCLA was changed so that it was all about baseball when it really wasn't about baseball at all. Wow. So that was tried. I never attempted to do that myself, and I never understood how it could possibly work. But in terms of hospitals, I read somewhere, and I don't know if this is true or not, that they started out at one hospital and then got kicked out.
I read that too, and I think it came across in the movie because you see the production design goes really weak when the operation comes.
Yeah.
Because they only have a blood bag, and they have to shoot silhouettes. So I think you could see that suddenly they didn't have access to anything from the hospital.
I actually, as best I can remember, and my memory may be faulty, where we were, and this was, I believe, toward the end of the shooting, was at near Cal State, LA, so in East LA, basically, and it was a kind of decommissioned, like an unwed mother's hospital, that kind of place, but no longer really being used. Mm-hmm. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
Like an old clinic somewhere or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because apparently, and I don't know how accurate this is or not, but the reason they had to stop shooting at the one hospital and switch to the clinic was that the scene with Candace Railson, or Rylson, I have a hard time with her name. What was it?
I think that.
Rylson is what I've always heard.
Yeah.
So Rylson. Well, the scene where she's having sex in the linen closet. Apparently somebody who wasn't on the film crew walked in on that and saw her. Yeah. So that's when they were like, what are you filming in our hospital?
That has to be the funniest thing.
But I mean, and
the whole idea of having sex in a linen closet is funny in and of itself. I mean, where do you have that kind of room? Anyway, it's like
logistics finds a way. Allan, come on, you know that.
I was gonna say, how could you even? It must have been a
phenomenon that you're not aware of, and only the editors are, is that those times Roger was so cheap, and black and white film was much cheaper than color, so the work print was always in black and white. So you never saw color until the film was finished.
Oh.
And so seeing Candy Striped Nurses in the theater for the first time was the first time that I saw it in color. And, even though the walls are like this putrid green the whole time, it was like, wow, it's green.
So you were the only person that was excited about that green colored wall.
Yes, exactly.
Aww.
Now, okay. And
of course, did several movies for Roger after that, including Hollywood Boulevard, which was the movie that Joe Dante and Allan Arkish, his buddy and fellow editor or fellow trailer cutter, went to Roger and said, we can make the cheapest movie of all time, and the way we're going to do it is most of it, all of the action sequences, we're going to crib from other Corman movies. And she was the star of that, is this naive would-be actress or would-be filmmaker who sort of stumbles into miracle pictures. If they make a good picture, it's a miracle. That miracle picture.
They actually convinced John Davidson of that, and then John and Joe and Allan took Roger out drinking, and they got him drunk, and then they pitched it.
Oh,
right.
And
because Joe and Allan, the first trailer that Joe cut for Roger was Candy Striped Nurses.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
So
wow, see, this is film history, folks, right here, Joe Dante.
Yeah.
And years later, I had the good fortune, I'd worked with all those people, and years later, they gathered in Joe's office to talk to me about Roger for my Corman biography. And when
which is a great book.
Candy Striped Nurses came up, and they were having such a great time with one another. And when Candace Rialson came up, that was the big lament. She retired from the business, got married, and got fat. They just mourned the loss of this beautiful young woman.
Aww.
Well, and it's funny because all these movies that she starred in and was featured in, and the one that I actually remember her best from was the little short scene she did in The Eiger Sanction with Clint Eastwood.
Wow.
Because he's a hitman for the government, but he's kind of retired and he's teaching art history at a college, and she comes in and tries to use her feminine wiles to get an A in the class. And he just tells her, all right, well, study your little buns off, and that'll be that. Kicks her out of his office. So, but I just remember that scene, and I was like, oh, okay, that's the same woman that's in Candy Stripe Nurses. She, she was in the Hollywood Boulevard, like you mentioned. I mean, she's done a ton of movies, but that one's the one that stuck out to me for no good reason.
Why did she quit?
Well, maybe she got married and got tired of taking her clothes off for other people. Is my guess.
Yeah, she said that she didn't want any more three girl stories, and wanted to be a star.
Oh, okay.
And she wasn't getting it because she'd been, shown too much, and exploitation. It was tough to make that break.
Oh,
that's probably true.
Yeah, because that's the thing. The exploitation angle of it really could make it difficult for a career to really take off at that time.
Well, but also in context, there was no. I mean, videotape was just beginning. I mean, at AFI we were doing reel-to-reel black and white video taping. So, to work on a film, it would have to be 35 millimeter. And there were only a few people making those films where people could get a start. And Roger was successful because he gave the teenage audience what they wanted. And so that's how you could be working on a movie, period.
Well, and I got to say, she was an excellent. I think her character was my favorite one in the film, but her story was probably my least favorite story.
Well, Owen Bowles, that's where the film really screws up. He was not a rock star. Even the name is not a rock star.
Yeah,
the way he was portrayed was just awful. I mean, I think whatever.
Yeah. No, I'm going to agree with you there. He really seemed. I don't know. I couldn't see people, even if he had the most amazing voice in the world. I couldn't see people, women throwing themselves at him that way.
No, yeah, no.
Exactly.
But even the name itself, I don't know. Bowles.
Yeah, Owen Bowles. It sounds like you ought to be selling you insurance.
I don't know.
But and that was the bit with he came to the sex clinic to get treated.
Yeah.
Yeah, the manager was like, his acting was like, Dick Miller should have had that part.
Actually, Dick Miller would have been great as the manager.
Yes.
Pardon?
And Dick was in it, of course, but in a much smaller role.
Yeah, I know, not a big role.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to go back and look for him because I did not recognize him when I watched it.
Yeah, he was the obnoxious fan during the basketball game. So, by the way, can I just say...
that basketball game, it was so frustrating because they only staged one move for the whole comeback. So I had to do it twice, the same exact pass to the guy down under the basket.
Oh.
Oh.
Nuts. But I have a funny story, though. My first screening for Julie, those days you had a screening in a screening room. Roger didn't have one in his office yet. And so the screening room was a place called Nossex. And Noel Nossex was a director, and his father was a long-time projectionist. And they had the screening room. And Hal Harrison, who later became the head of post at Paramount, was my assistant. And I was trying to do the basketball scene. It was one of the first things that was shot. And I was still cutting when we had to leave for the screening room. Wow. And so I had Hal leave with the first reel, and I was going to put the basketball scene at the end of the second reel. And then I did that, and I go there, and it's Sunset Boulevard, near Doheny, so it's right where Beverly Hills begins. And I'm looking for this place called Nossex, and I can't find it. I can't find the address. and I'm looking at my paper, and it's spelled Nossecks or something like that, and I run into this guy, and I'm a stutterer too at that time. I stuttered for most of my life, or until I was in my 40s, and so I always stuttered with strangers. So it turned out that the guy was Dick Clark, because his office is right there on Sunset Boulevard.
The real Dick
and I
Clark.
recognized Dick Clark, the real Dick Clark, because I grew up watching Dick Clark.
Wow.
And I look at the paper and I said, "Do you know where no sex is?" And so he turned his head and walked away. And I finally found it, and I got the reel in, and I spliced the scene in upside down.
Oh.
So Julie's watching the basketball scene. She goes, "Allan, when's it going to change?" And it's projecting. So I said, "It's not going to change, Julie. I'm sorry." And she only had that time for the screening. So that was my first professional editing screening in Hollywood.
Oh boy.
Ooh.
Actually,
Wow.
I was surprised. I read a biography of Howard Hughes not too long ago, and was really startled to see Nossecks, and it's a screening room that I remember as well, mentioned, because Howard Hughes, at a point in his life where he was falling apart, just almost moved into the screening room, and it was that particular screening room, and basically just sort of lived there and projecting movies 24 hours a day.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Well, that's cool. And it gave you a run-in with Dick Clark, too. So,
Yeah, but he thought he was like someone he'd never want to be around again, looking for sex.
That's what happens whenever people meet me, Mary. So I don't think that's a problem. I just go on. But it's funny because you brought up the basketball game, and I kept thinking about this because I'm from Kentucky and we live and die by college basketball, and watching the ball game. And the only thing that I kept thinking about was, wait a minute, this is supposed to be a college basketball game. That just kept going through my head. I'm like, this is the smallest college basketball game I've ever seen.
Oh, I thought it was high school.
Yeah, it looks like high school, but
it looks like college. But it was because remember that was
he's too old for high school.
Yeah,
they were all too old for high school.
Okay, to be fair, they weren't all too old for high school.
Well, the Candy Stripers were high schoolers, so maybe it was high school.
Yeah. Well, I think the basketball player, he was supposed to be a college guy. And that was the big deal because he was, she was dating a college guy, and it was the Diane character played by Robin Matson, and she was actually 18 at the time when they were filming, so she was the closest, I think, to high school age when they were making the movie. So, but she was also the intellectual, so she was very excited about studying movement during the when he was, practicing basketball. So she was there.
That's right, because she's a dancer. She's a dancer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And she had her
dance sequence was not the best sequence in the movie.
No.
No, but I did think it was cute that she was there with a little 8mm camera. It looked like a little Super 8 filming it. And I just kept thinking to myself, okay, this is a Roger Corman movie, so I wonder if that footage is going to end up in the film later.
Oh, but we have to talk about the animation in the beginning.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The title song.
That's really good. Mm-hmm. Who did that?
And I love the animation. And the title song is hysterical. It just goes, "I want to bang, bang a candy striped nurse" over and over.
And I love that. And the animation was just super cute. It was fun.
Yeah, the colors were great.
Well, and that was a neat way to get around to have an interesting credit sequence because people will watch those.
It also made it into the trailer. It was really good.
Yeah.
It was a big selling point. And Julie did the same thing with Crazy Mama. She had an animated opening.
Oh.
It was more still photography turning into postcards, that type of thing.
Cool.
Because it was a period piece.
Weren't they, they were doing a lot of the animation kind of stuff at that point in time, though, in movies?
Well, I think Peter said the Pink Panther did it.
Yeah.
The Pink Panther movies kind of did that a lot. And I tell you, the one that sticks out to me from the 70s, though, was Grease did it. You remember the opening for Grease was animated also.
Which is the one
Grease is about my high school, by the way.
You were a Rydell High
in Baltimore.
Oh, okay.
No, but it's actually based on Forest Park in Baltimore.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we had greasers then, who were not portrayed as the good guys, but they were more the juvenile delinquents.
Yeah, greasers were.
But they I had a fight with the greaser because one of them made fun of my stuttering. So it was the Jewish guy against the greaser guy, and we met, and I actually had him down, but he whispered to me, let me up, and I let him up, and then he was wearing these black boots with this steel, toe, and he kicked me in the balls.
Oh!
This was in the 8th grade, and and then the teachers came, and then the afternoon in the hallway and change of class, everyone was looking, below my waist to see how I was injured.
Oh my!
Wow.
Anyway.
I have a question, and maybe Allan might know the answer. There was someone on the crew who has done a lot of things since, whose name was Jane Rum. She was, among other things, the costume designer or the costume coordinator. But I saw in the credits on IMDb that she also, they gave her credit for visuals, well, let me see, titles. Did she possibly do the animation? Talented lady, if so.
Yeah, I would guess so. Yeah.
I remember her specifically because, first of all, she gave me that skimpy nurse's outfit, and secondly, I probably ended up she ended up on the cutting room floor, I suppose. What I remember is they called me, and I sort of, on my own behalf, inserted a line. I said, yes, doctor, because I thought if people call you, you've got to say something. And there was supposed to be like an operation sequence, and then it ends with my dragging Robin Mattson off. But apparently they then filmed some operation-type footage, and I wasn't there, so Jane became my hands. And since I'm a very small person and Jane's a very large person, I felt a little odd about her hands standing in for mine, but I don't think it ended up in the movie anyway.
So I just looked her up also on IMDb because I was curious about this, and she also did title design on Death Race 2000. And if you watch that, it's not, well, it's animated, but it's not as animated as Candy Stripe Nurses, right? So Death Race 2000 is a bunch of basically still images that the camera kind of pans over for animation. But this was, Candy Stripe Nurses was full-on animation, but I'm betting she did it. So nice there you go. Yeah. So that's cool. Are there any other, are there any other fun stories you guys have from the set? I think we've gone through a lot of different things here randomly, but it's been super fun.
I just want to make sure that aside from Dick Miller, another Corman regular who was in there for a few seconds as somebody at the intake desk for the sex clinic was Sally Kirkland, who did the casting.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Sally's an interesting believe me, if you've interviewed Sally, she's an interesting person. She actually has a Best Actress nomination, Academy Award nomination, for a film called Anna, years later. but she was a very flamboyant character. She was always around New World in my day. And over the years in various roles, as she used to say, she liked to be naked physically and emotionally. So that's Sally. You saw just a glimpse of her, but she is not naked.
She was a friend of Julie Corman's, wasn't she?
Yeah, a friend. She, you never know when you talk to people. According to her, she and Roger were practically Sally's best friends and practically her godparents, and on and on. But she was definitely part of their world quite a bit.
Okay.
What I remember best about Sally when I interviewed her for the Corman book is she and I met for breakfast at a place near where she lived. And I quickly discovered that I was paying, which was okay. And then she also gave acting lessons, very methody acting lessons. And I saw two young women come in very short shorts, etc. And they were pretty remarkable looking. And then I discovered there were three of them. They were triplets. And they were taking acting lessons with Sally. So she invited them to have breakfast on me as well.
Oops.
When Roger took the editing team out to lunch for Candy Striped Nurses, and at the end of the mix, he took us
really? Out to lunch? My goodness. Okay, go on.
No, to Rob's big boy. Bob's big boy.
Oh. Big spender.
in Burbank. No, Rob's big boy.
Roger took you out to lunch. It was a rare moment.
So, I'm just curious, from the point that they said, okay, Julie, here's the script, let's make this movie, to the world premiere of Candy Striped Nurses, how long was it in production?
I think just 4 weeks.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking, because he's known for, Roger's known for getting films from concept to screen in record time. So,
well, I didn't know about concept because I didn't start until the day before shooting started.
So I just know. A couple of months getting ready, and then the shoot was usually about 3 weeks, is what I remember. Three,
maybe it was 3.5 with second unit.
It's never as many as 4.
Pardon? Never 4?
No.
Okay.
Well, you wouldn't want to go 4 weeks. That's overtime.
Well, I had 4 for Mutant, and Roger gave me 3 extra days too.
Oh,
wow!
But that was special effects.
Oh, okay.
Well, the other thing that Roger would do if you needed inserts for a scene, when he had his office on Sunset, which was the time of Candy Striped Nurses, he had he would do inserts on the roof. So you would just shoot low angles.
Huh.
So whether it was nighttime or daytime, that's how you do inserts.
So that's where. So all those shots were from the roof, then?
No, we had to, find a cut that had it done for storytelling. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's fun.
That is interesting. I was never on the roof. Well, I do remember that building very well, particularly the glass elevator.
Roger took over. Once the film was shot for the screenings, it was Roger's notes from there on.
Okay. And that's when, and I mean, I think it's just, and going back to what you said earlier, when you were, when he would be watching the film and editing, and he'd be taking his notes and say, cut 4 frames here, or, whatever, 2 frames here. It just amazes me that he had the eye to just say, okay, just cut a couple of frames here, and that's going to make this work.
I think he didn't like, I don't think it was, I think it was so, because I cut a lot for him, it was just a routine. He would just keep, he would just look for it all the time. It wasn't like, do the thing here. It was like constant, He was like, those were his notes going. If you like if you like the scheme of the cutting, he would just keep working it, that way.
Nice. All right. Well, I think at this point, Mary, do you have anything else you want to ask?
I read somewhere where when they were bringing the girls in and asking them to take their tops off, when they were choosing the girls to play the parts, that Julie wasn't part of that, that it was Roger, because Julie wasn't comfortable doing that. Was that true?
I don't know about that particular film, but certainly a story, this was from much later, or somewhat later. This was, of all things, Christmas Eve, and they were sending some young women off to make films in Manila, where many, many films were made, and Roger had been disappointed with some previous actresses who just were not as good looking on top as they were supposed to be. So they would have breast checks. And Roger and I guess the director and a very nice woman who was Roger's assistant at the time, whose name I suddenly forget, but she's the daughter of Eva Marie Saint. And very ladylike. So they were sitting there and they had champagne because it was Christmas Eve, and then these girls would have to come in and pop their tops, as the infamous Jim Wynorski would put it. And Roger did seem to enjoy that part of the job.
I'm sure Jim enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
Just another day at the office, I guess.
Wow.
Well, all right. Well,
that's the name I was thinking of. Eva Marie Saint's daughter, Lorette Hayden.
She graduated from Stanford too.
She quit the business entirely and became a psychotherapist. So that may tell you something. I don't know.
Wow.
I'm not sure how to follow that up.
I know. Wow.
Make an appointment.
That's what Roger does to people, I guess. Wow.
Well, I think she actually went on to be head of Lifetime movies.
That's right. Yes.
And then that kind of I think she just got tired of the executive life, and wanted something more meaningful.
Wow. What could be more meaningful than making B movies?
I don't know. Can't think.
Well, you know what?
Lifetime movies.
Oh,
but
and just remember, guys, Lifetime movies are just B movies, but cut for cable. So. All right. Well, listen. I think at this point, I want to try and go through
I would like to just say one thing.
Oh, yeah.
Somehow, Candy Stripe Nurses has a real charm to it. There's an innocence and a commitment to try to be good, or to try to do something right about making a movie, and that kind of comes through in it. There's like a lot of effort to keep it going, and I think the whole 3 parallel story thing makes that happen, because you never get totally bored with one story. As soon as you do, you're into the other story. That was kind of like an editing theme. As soon as you get bored here, you go to the next story. You avoid that point where you're bored. And there's something magical about that in terms of pace that really kept this film together. But there was a charm with the girls of how relaxed they were with their roles. They really, captured a good feeling overall, I think.
Well, and yeah, I will say that watching the film, I think especially Candace and Robin were both extremely comfortable, it felt like, and they were both good actors in this. I mean, they did a great job. Not Maria Rojo was a little bit less comfortable, I think, as an actress, but I wasn't, and I'll be honest, I wasn't sure if that was simply because maybe she wasn't a native speaker of English, and she was playing a role speaking English, or if what Beverly said is that it was kind of, well, she was willing to take her top off, so we hired her. So
I thought she was a pretty good actress. I don't know why, but I did.
I don't know.
Maybe it's just
she was a little bit weaker, but
the scene where she played where she had to be raped. That whole
now that was really good. That was she was very, very strong in that.
Yeah, I was so uncomfortable through that whole thing. It was like, oh my God, I wasn't expecting that. I was thinking this is more of a farce, kind of a fun movie, and then that was thrown in there. I wasn't expecting social commentary in this movie.
And you obviously have not been a connoisseur of nurse films from the early 70s, Mary. Because they all tended to have some kind of political commentary hiding in plain sight there in the films.
Yeah.
But as Beverly was saying, this is the first one that it didn't have an African American actress. They went with a Hispanic actress for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the social commentary was often coming into these. So
Let me add one small thing. If you recall, there's just a little tiny moment where Candace Rialson and Robin are just standing around in a hall, and they sort of look out the window and they comment on the smog. It's a nothing scene, but Julie wanted it because she felt that she needed a commentary on, well, they didn't call it climate change then, but the environment. And Allan, I think, finally wrote something that was a little bit lighter, but what he had first of all was, oh, look at all that brown smog down there. But she was determined that she was going to get in her piece of some social commentary, and that was it.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, that was when the smog in LA was really bad. When I first came out here, which was a year before Candy Stripe Nurses, I got a used Impala. It was a big boat, and I was driving down Hollywood Boulevard, and I just started crying, and my eyes were burning, and I pulled to the side, and I was walking down the sidewalk, and everyone seemed normal, but I was like, I couldn't see straight. And I walked into a pharmacy, and I said, my eyes are burning. What can I do? And he said, get sunglasses. But the smog was really bad then.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Every now and then, and I worked at Burbank, and it was really, you would see, it was just brown. Then it would rain, and you'd suddenly see everything clear, and you realize how beautiful it was. But mostly it was just, covered in smog.
I'm afraid you're right.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
Well, see, Mary, you're really not appreciating the good, clean air of South Carolina.
Well, okay, I was born and raised in a steel mill town, so to me, dirty air is normal. Air is supposed to be kind of brown,
and that's the problem with the world today, Mary. The air is not supposed to be brown. That is not a goal.
You're supposed to wake up in the morning and have to sweep your porch to get all the soot off of it,
Wow, okay. Well, so much for the social commentary of the B-Movie podcast.
Anyway.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, at this point, I'm going to try and sum up the plot of Candy Stripe Nurses and Stop Laughing Mary. Okay, I hear you laughing. As we said, this is Nurseploitation. I think that is the best of all the phrases I've heard bandied about for what kind of movie this is. Nurseploitation, I think, fits the best because that was the thing. And as Beverly pointed out, there were a lot of those nurse movies in the early 70s. And this one, I would say this one was the pinnacle of the nurseploitation genre, and everyone was intimidated to try and make anything better. And so we're just going to stick with that.
Okay, because Allan Hallam said that he thought he broke it.
Mary,
He did. He said he thought
I know he did.
But
I'm trying to be a little highbrow here about this, okay, Mary? And be very
I think Candace Wilson achieved the pinnacle in this. I mean, I swear. I mean, she's just beautiful to watch. And Robin's pretty close, but she's just amazing. So I think she is the pinnacle in this movie.
And that is one of the things. I mean, the casting in this is really good. And yeah, Candace and Robin were both fantastic in it. And yeah, it's interesting because Robin went on, she actually wrote a cookbook later in life and she was really big in the daytime soaps and briefly had a cooking show too. So, she did a lot of interesting stuff.
She went on and had a really big career in soaps.
That's what I said.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised that, like all the housewives watched these soaps back when I was growing up. And they were watching this woman that had started her career, in this
Candy
movie.
Stripe Nurse.
Yes.
Well, and by the way, for the record, they weren't. My grandmother used to love soap operas, especially Days of Our Lives.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a soap opera. It was her stories.
Oh, yeah.
Nick, don't bother me now. I'm watching my stories. Okay, great.
That's great.
So anyway, no, but this film, it did have a good cast, and it is interesting to go back and look at how many people got their start under Roger Corman, and we talk about this every time we do a Corman film. But even just Joe Dante cut the trailer for this movie. I mean, what? It's just crazy to me. But anyway, so Candy Stripe Nurses, unlike your other nurse-related films, this one focused on the not nurses, but the kind of nurse assistants from the local high school. And they were the Candy Stripe Nurses, and they were all volunteers except for the character Marissa, played by Maria Rojo. She was actually, or not Maria Rojo, excuse me. She was actually a kind of a delinquent at her school, and one of the teachers comes along. She's sitting there carving a piece of wood with a knife, and the teacher comes along and tries to take the knife away from her, and she just wails on him, which I thought was brilliant. But rather than, sending her to juvie hall or kicking her out of school, the principal says, I think what you need to do is go get some wholesome work experience being a Candy Stripe nurse at the Oakwood Hospital. So that's how she ends up doing it. And there's a funny little scene in the same bit where she's carving with the knife. This guy comes up to her and's like, hey, I've got 2 tickets to the Owen Bowles concert. Do you want to go? And she just won't even talk to him. So he goes away and comes back later because he actually tries asking Diane, who is played by Robin Mattson, tries asking her to the concert also. And she's like, no. So I think he ends up just giving the tickets away. But that's beside the point. So you got these 3 kids, and one of them is Sandy. She's kind of the fun-loving one. She's the one played by Candace Ralston, excuse me. And she is there because she's kind of an overachiever in high school, and she's actually sort of dating one of the doctors, or I guess an intern doctor there. And so when they're not having sex in the linen closet, he's doing her math homework for her. And their relationship is a little bit rocky, and it gets a little bit rockier when she sneaks her way into the sex clinic to pose as the therapist for rock star Owen Bowles, who was possibly the least attractive rock star I've ever seen. Yes. But that's beside the point.
Yes.
But
English.
But he was English.
Well, he was British, so he had that going for him. But apparently the fact that he has these two kind of go-go dancer girls that are essentially both his girlfriends, and they just follow him around, and he really can't seem to stand them. And so Sandy has to figure out how to cure his sexual dysfunction, because if you're a rock star, you cannot not be a sexual tyrannosaurus. You've got to, you got to get out there and be a rock god, and he was not living up to that image, so they had to take care of that. Then we had Diane, and she was played by Robin Mattson, and Diane is kind of this a little bit uptight. She's a dancer, but she also wants to be a doctor. And so she becomes a candy stripe nurse specifically because she's interested in medicine and nursing. And she's like,
she's the serious one.
Yeah, she's the serious one. And she's the one that's there when a basketball player named Cliff, and he's a star college basketball player. Well, he comes in because he's collapsed during a game. And they think it's a concussion, but they also think that he may have been on drugs, because drugs are bad. And, don't get me started down that road, but this is the 70s. And so they were definitely trying to do a bit of the social commentary there on drugs. But she ends up having an affair with him, and has to figure out, okay, was he really, does he really have a concussion? Is he really doing drugs and I just don't know about it? What's going on there? And then, of course, we have, going back to Marissa, not Maria Rojo, her deal is that the patient that she's involved with is a fella named Carlos, who was falsely accused of taking part in a gas station holdup. So most of her scenes for the movie involve her running around Los Angeles asking people if they've seen this gas tank for a motorcycle, because that was the thing. There was one witness that could free Carlos, and she had to find him. And the only thing Carlos could remember about him was that he had a custom gas tank on his motorcycle. And so over the course of 88 minutes, these three stories kind of intertwine. And it's, you brought up a good point on this, Allan, is that with this film, because it has these three different stories, you never get bogged down in any one of them. Because just about the time you might have felt like you were getting ready to spend too much time there, it cuts over to the next story, and you kind of have to shift gears mentally. So I'm not going to tell you folks, by the way, whether free-loving Sandy was able to cure Owen Bowles of his little problem, or whether Diane actually is able to help Cliff, the college basketball player, with his possible drug addiction, and who's giving him the drugs, who knows? And then whether or not Marissa is able to get Carlos off of the armed robbery charge that he's facing. But I will say that the film does not disappoint in the nudity category. So there you go. Because let's face it, if you're going to see Candy Stripe Nurses, you know exactly what you're going to see. And this film does not disappoint. It has enough story to hold everything together nicely. And more to the point, you kind of enjoy watching these characters. And it's kind of the thing, I enjoy watching the characters more than I enjoy watching them through the story, and just seeing how they interact with people and how they solve their problems. So it's a fun little movie. I highly recommend it. If for no other reason, then it's just a early 70s fun film, and it's got Dick Miller in it. And you just can't go wrong with any film where Dick Miller pops up.
And
so
Beverly.
Check out Candy Stripe Nurses.
And Beverly Gray.
That's right.
Well, that's right. And Beverly Gray. And now, Beverly, I am going to go back and rewatch the film, just the ending bit, just to show my wife your scene in it.
Yeah.
So.
It was a stellar scene. What can I say?
More than most of us.
Well, I think it's a lot of fun, and I do want to take a moment to thank both of you for coming on the show this week. We really appreciate it, and it's always fun to have both of you on the show, and having both of you on the show together has been twice as fun. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, and I want to thank Beverly for introducing me to you, both of you. So thank you, Beverly.
Yes,
and thank you, Allan, for all the education you've given me about film editing and Battle Beyond the Stars.
For sure, and thank you both again for just participating. And by the way, Allan, we definitely need to do Forbidden World on here.
Yes.
So
I'm ready.
Yes,
so
ready
we'll
for a double bill right now.
I got to get Mary to watch it first. So,
yeah.
But
yeah.
But
Mary needs her stitches to heal a little bit more before she's ready for another movie.
But this is, and by the way, listeners, this was number 10 in our countdown to the 500th episode of the B Movie Cast.
Wow.
So
thank you for the honor.
Yeah, so stay tuned for more fun as we try to cover every B movie genre we can between now and episode 500. And Mary, do not give away what the 500th movie is.
Okay, but that's the only one I know. Okay, it's time for the feedback now. Let's see, our first piece of email is from Doug Farini. He says, Mary, Nick, and Juan just wanted to say thanks for the prizes that have recently arrived. Star Trek X Nemesis is a movie I have never seen before. If it's as bad as Nick says, I will use it as a Star Trek coaster. Ouch.
Okay. I got to pause for a second because one of the interesting things is that this movie, it was not by any stretch of the imagination my favorite Star Trek movie, obviously, but it becomes important to the Star Trek universe because it ties directly into Star Trek Picard, the new series that follows Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it's interesting that they went back and said, you know what, we're going to Iron Man 3 this.
Oh.
Which is what I call what they did with Shang-Chi, the Marvel movie, because they went back and made the Mandarin from Iron Man 3, who was possibly the worst villain in Marvel history, at least in the movies. And they turned around and made him a critical character in a way. So, it's just interesting.
Okay.
But anyway, on with the show, Mary. Sorry, carry on.
Okay, the rest of the prizes, this, by the way, was from Santito.
Oh.
So he got the Nemesis movie. He said the other prize was a box of goodies. I took a picture, and I wish I could have attached it here, but it has disappeared somehow.
Oh.
I have that problem with technology often. Let me try to describe it to you. It had a copy of Loss Prevention on Blu-ray. Wow. Wow. Congratulations.
Yes, wow,
Nick.
Indeed.
A Stephen D. Sullivan book. Wow.
Oh, wow.
An X-Men book.
Hey.
Some Star Trek, Star Wars, and Universal Monsters trading cards. Wow. Some postcards. And the best thing was a Blue Demon sticker.
Wait, the best thing?
That's the best thing.
There's a copy of my movie in there, and he says the best thing, the Blue Demon sticker?
Oh.
Rage! No. I would agree, actually. The best thing in there was the Blue Demon sticker.
He says, the funny thing was the package did not have a B-Movie Cast written anywhere on it. So it sat around for a week as we discussed who may have sent it. Then I caught up with the podcast and realized it was a prize. So thanks again, Doug Farini. Wow.
Yeah, I guess that might be worrisome if you just get this random box in the mail. But.
Yeah, that's what happens when Steve sends out his stuff. I mean, Patrick. Because he just sends it from his home address, or he sends it actually from Amazon a lot of times.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, anyway.
Yes.
Let's see. We have a voicemail here from Stan Ward from the Creepy Hills north of Doylestown. And congratulations on kicking COVID's butt. I'm glad you're out of the hospital, and I'm glad you're off oxygen, and I'm glad you're doing well. Woohoo!
Yes.
Yes. So here it goes.
Hey, Mary, Nick, and the B-Movie Cast family. It's Stan here from the Creepy Hills north of Doylestown. Just trying to get caught up on the B-Movie Cast. And I listened to On Her Majesty's Secret Service. It was an excellent podcast with Mark Mawson and Jonathan Sadler. I'm becoming a Mark Mawson fan, I think. Oh, yeah. But you guys did a great job, like on all podcasts. And I know you put a lot of sweat equity into it when you think about, the podcast and the website and everything else. I know it's a lot of work. But it was a very interesting commentary on that film. And George Lazenby. I do think that he gave a very humanistic, maybe, portrayal of Bond, which isn't always as apparent in the other movies. But it was really good, and the ending shocked even me. And I'm not a big Bond guy. My first exposure to James Bond and the whole franchise was Roger Moore and Live and Let Die, and I'm a huge Beatles fan. Wow. My original interest in watching In Her Majesty's Secret Service was because I was a Diana Rigg fan. And when she had passed away recently, a couple of years ago, I watched the film again, and it was really great. But I think I'm going to have to watch it again after listening to the podcast. Yeah. And, I think there's a lot of stuff that I probably didn't catch the first time. But anyway, this is Stan from the Creepy Hills north of Doylestown. Just checking in and now signing off. Bye.
Bye, Stan.
Bye, Stan. Thank you, man.
Yeah, wow. He sounds good. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Let's see. Okay, our next email is from Scott Wirtz.
Hey. Thank you for not being in Canada, Scott.
The still I see today is from Dolomite 1975 in Griffith Park, no less. The turnout where they make that guy dance looks a lot like the same turnout where Robert Loggia beat up the tailgater in David Lynch's Lost Highway.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's not the same spot, actually.
Wow. Okay, Jens saying, go Rams. That's football, isn't it?
Yeah, that is football, and I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say go Bengals. So we got a little something going on here, but carry on.
Okay, that's it from Scott Wirtz from the creepy San Fernando Valley.
Hey, well, thanks, Scott. And by the way, I'm going to take a moment just to say I really do love Canada.
Yeah.
I've just been sitting here going, thank you for not being Canadian. And it's nothing against Canada. It's against the U.S. Postal Service and how much they charge to send stuff to Canada.
I know.
That's all.
I know. Oof. And with all the truckers blocking the thing, I don't know when they'll ever get the stuff.
They're blocking one bridge.
Oh, I thought it was two.
Well, maybe two, but still.
Okay.
Canada and the U.S. share a very long border.
That's true.
I think that there's a lot of people who are being hurt by this, so don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But planning ahead, you can probably get around the blocked bridge.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah. Okay.
But I digress. You just got to go through Buffalo, man.
Okay. This next one's from Paul Ruby. Says the movie is Dolomite 1975, where there was a recent Eddie Murphy movie called Dolomite.
Yep.
Dolomite is My Name on Netflix about the life of Rudy Ray Moore.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
That's the one I was just talking about.
Okay.
Man.
It's okay, so I can watch it on Netflix.
Yes, it's on Netflix.
Okay. I might do that.
Oh, you might.
Well,
all right.
I don't know. I'm having trouble right now because did I tell you my surround sound receiver died on me?
Mary, you didn't just tell me about it. You called me about it. And we had a long conversation about it. So, yes, you did mention it in passing at some point.
Okay.
And by in passing at some point, I mean we had a 25-minute conversation on the phone about nothing but your receiver.
Wow. Okay.
So, yes, so the drugs for your surgery are working
really
very
working well. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what happened, folks, was the night before my surgery, my surround sound receiver croaked on me. And
I didn't know what to do, and it was like I did everything that I could think of to get it to work again, and it didn't. So, of course, I called Nick. I think I called you.
And I was absolutely no
help at all, yeah.
But you're welcome.
Well, what happened was like a day, I had surgery, so the day after that, I went online and found the equivalent, whatever, now of that. I think it's the same brand name and everything. And I bought it, but it was at Best Buy, and they were going to have to ship it to me. So I thought I'll just go down to Best Buy and talk to the people about it to make sure I got the right one because, me and technology and surround systems and all that stuff. So I just decided to go down and talk to the people at Best Buy. And my girlfriend drove me down there. I was still on pain pills, so... So anyway, I bought this thing, and it arrived, like, in a day. And then some other friends had to come over and, like, pick the box up from the front porch because it was so heavy and bring it in the house. They unpacked it, and they helped me hook it up. And it worked perfectly. It was like, yay, right? So I went to watch something on the smart TV, and I turned it on. It was the Amazon Prime streaming thingy. Turned it on, no sound. So I'm like back to square one. Somewhere along the line, there's a difference between the old one and the new one, and now it's not hooked up right. And so now
it's the revenge of Jeff Bezos.
We'll see if I want to watch Netflix now. I have to turn off the surround system, unplug it, and then just go through the television speakers, which is a real pain in the butt.
It is a pain in the butt, Mary.
And all of that was just because I was trying to explain that I couldn't watch it on Netflix right now.
Yeah, I realized that this long story was getting longer, but I can't cast stones, Mary. I'm, Yeah,
you find those rabbit holes a lot.
I do. So, I let you chase your rabbit.
Okay. Anyway, last one. Last email is from Marlo Brown. It says, "Hi, Mary and all the gang at the B-Movie Clubhouse. When I saw the contest picture, I was suddenly like Sean Penn in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I know that dude. Dolomite. It's Dolomite from 1975. Fun movie. Hope y'all are doing well. In South Texas, we had a few really cold nights, but we thankfully avoided the ice and the sleet that was predicted. The cooler weather has been great for watching classic and not-so-classic films. I really have to see Father Frost. You all made it sound like a lot of fun." It was. It was fun. My strongest memory associated with the Soviet Union is escorting the carrier USS Ranger in the South China Sea in the summer of '86. I was wow. I was conning the ship, and I'm not sure what that means.
Steering.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And we were fending off a really pesky Kinda-class cruiser, staying between him and the carrier, and periodically we were being buzzed by these huge 4-engined Soviet Bear bombers, taking pictures of our antennas, radars, and weapons, looking for anything new. Fun times. Oof. That doesn't sound fun.
It isn't, but it was. It was the Cold War.
Yeah, that's true.
It made for a lot of really entertaining movies.
Mm-hmm. He goes on to say, "We did see one film that immediately made it to my all-time favorites list, In a Lonely Place from 1950, starring Humphrey Bogart and Gloria Graham. It's a film noir about a screenwriter and a sometime actress that manages to be a scathing criticism of Hollywood and features an amazing performance by Bogart and Ms. Graham. It's dark, suspenseful, and heartbreaking. A true masterpiece of a film. At times it reminded me of Sunset Boulevard."
Oh, wow. That's high praise.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's heartbreaking. I think I'll...
Well, we'll watch Dolomite, Mary.
Okay.
Moving on.
That's okay. Thank you. I look forward to whatever you and Nick and Juan decide to review next. Maybe a Santo flick. I love that guy. He goes on to say, "Bye, Mary. Bye, Marlo, from the haunted borderlands of South Texas, where the squirrels never seem to hibernate. Dang it." Squirrels hibernate?
All right. Do what?
Do squirrels hibernate?
No, Mary, squirrels don't hibernate. They just go away. No, actually, maybe they do hibernate. I don't know. I kind of don't care.
I'm going to have to Google that.
Squirrel going to do what squirrel got to do.
I hate squirrels.
I know, Mary. You have an undeniable distaste for the squirrel.
They eat my lawn furniture.
I know, and it's awful.
I know.
All right. But that was it for the feedback?
Yep, that was it.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for writing, calling, sending telegrams, whatever.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
We appreciate it. And since this is the countdown to the 500th episode, we are asking for... what are we asking for? Kind of just
I don't know.
Say hi and let us know you're still listening. And on our 500th episode, we are going to play them and read them. It will be a celebration of our 500th episode. So start
just
sending
make sure
in
if it's. I was going to say, make sure if it's for the 500th, you note that it's for the 500th.
Yes. Yeah, that's true too. Good point.
Yep.
Okay, that's it then.
All right. Well, thank you, folks, for writing in. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And keep getting excited about the 500th episode coming up in the next couple of months, with any luck at all. All right. Well, I guess that's it for this episode. So thank you guys very much.
Yes, thank you. I love when you guys are on. I love your stories. They're so fun.
Thanks so much. It was a ball talking about this. Memory lane for sure.
Cool.
Well, we'll have you both on the show again soon.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Hey, thank you all. All right. And good night, folks.
Night.
Good night.
Adios, Mafia.
Well, they've gone.
For good, Joe?
No, just for now. It wasn't the right time for us to meet. But there'll be other nights, other stars for us to watch. They'll be back.
The ghosts are moving tonight, restless, hungry.
All right, fellas, here's your story. Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. And we cannot keep this a secret any longer.
Wait, Captain. I have found evidence of intelligent beings on this planet.
Look to the skies. It's the B-Movie Cookbook. Menus inspired by 15 of your favorite B-movies from the 1950s, with teenage werewolves, blobs, and enough cheese for everyone.
When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
But until then, we've got Ed Wood and Vincent Price.
There'll be food and drink and ghosts, and perhaps even a few murders. You're all invited.
So impress your friends with dinner and a movie with the B-Movie Cookbook. We've got you covered. Get your copy today at bmoviecookbook.com. That's bmoviecookbook.com.
Let me see that book. I am interested to see what sways your mind so heavily.
Sure thing. Just visit bmoviecookbook.com.
Anybody around here want some coffee?
Transmission.
The good guys always win, even in the 80s.